Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I see that we are live, so I'm going to do this live, but I'll go through this presentation before doing a kind of live interaction kind of thing, but then I'll get back to the chat and check out who's watching. So basically just want to go through an Opal buying tips and tricks kind of thing. Most of it's going to be geared towards a lot of these online places. So you got Opal Auctions, Facebook Marketplace, Etsy, eBay, all of that. Hopefully my audio is working, can't really tell. So yeah, a lot of online trading these days. It's always better to do it in person, but I don't know, online is kind of all we've got a lot of the time. So we just make do. I feel like there's not enough light. There we go. So, number one, probably the most important thing as well, is just to understand what you're after. You'll fall into a lot of traps if you're not entirely sure what you're looking for in the first place. So someone sells something that you've never heard of before and all of a sudden they're asking for $1 billion. I mean, there was a case that some of you may have seen if you're on Facebook. Someone selling an Australian Lightning Ridge Fire Opal kind of thing, and it was 15,000 bucks, which honestly I didn't think was the actual price, but when I asked, they asked me if I could read. So, you know, it's kind of interesting the way people approach selling things, but I don't know, I'm not the boss of them, they can do what they want. But yeah, so understanding what you want and the standard kind of price range for each type of opal, so where it's from. We all know that Lightning Ridge has a premium. We all know that Indonesian wood opal is pretty low down on the tier list. Then you've got things like solids, doublets, triplets. You've got to understand that. And you've got to understand how to identify that, because otherwise you're going to find yourself buying a doublet or a triplet thinking that it was a beautiful solid piece. So be careful of that. And then quality is the hardest thing to measure. So everything, body tone, brightness, play of color, weight, cut, imperfections, all that kind of stuff comes into play there. And you've really got to have an idea of what you want, what your budget is, and you've got to work with that. Remember that you are the buyer though, so you've actually got a lot of power in the whole transaction scheme of things. The seller can't make you buy something, so make sure you keep that in mind. You don't need to be rushed into anything. You can take it easy. Basically, you're in the driver's seat, so make sure you don't let yourself get ripped off too much. So number two, just understanding, going back to the values kind of thing, just understand the standard value for a lot of things. So I knew immediately that the guy asking for this fire opal from Lightning Ridge, asking 15,000 bucks for what is essentially honey potch, was insane. So here you can see that there's a base body tone and an opal brightness chart. So these are both from the Opal Association. I've got their little website over here. I have minimized this website a little bit just because I wanted to remember to say that the website seems to be down at the moment. I haven't been able to get on to any of their links. I just get to the homepage, so when it gets back up, you'll be able to see these kind of things. But yeah, it's basically base body tone. You've just got to understand the scale. The darker, the better. And it's the base body tone, not the backing material tone or anything like that. You've got to be able to see this base body tone behind the opal color. So it's what's immediately behind that opal bar, that color bar coming through. And yeah, the opal brightness is basically the brightness of the player color. And then on top of these, you've got the actual player color and the pattern, which this kind of summarizes a couple interesting patterns. Don't actually think I've seen one quite like these. The contrast on these pictures is awful, but you get the idea. So, step 3, understanding retail value. So here's a shot from Black Opal Direct. God, that's a good opal, but it's $120,000. So a lot of people give Black Opal Direct a hard time, and Justin a hard time about their pricing because everything's so expensive, including their rough. But he lives in a world where he is an opal shop, basically. He is selling things based on retail price, and his retail prices aren't that bad. If you go into the shop here in Adelaide, we've got a lot of opal shops, and it's kind of similar pricing. So you've just got to understand that some people are selling at retail price, but if you're on a Facebook marketplace group or whatever, you're probably going to look for some wholesale prices and get a whole bunch of stones for a lot less than what you're seeing in front of you here. So this is all retail price because it's from Black Opal Direct, and they always sell in retail price, including their rough. Their rough is also fairly up there, but that's because he knows. He looks at a piece of rough and he can cut this $120,000 gem out of it, and then he'll charge, I don't know, a good chunk of money for the rough that he can get that stone from. So it's it's all up to the seller really when it comes to that kind of thing. So hunting for honest sellers, something that I have done a bit, but I like to give people the benefit of the doubt and just dive in. Mainly because I like to review things for the channel, and if I come across someone real dodge, then I'll just make sure that it comes up on the channel and other people know. But just basically some good signs, accurate descriptions. The bad sign equivalent is people that put like black opal in all their listings, and it might be an Andamuka matrix or something. As soon as you start seeing that the descriptions don't match up with the images, you've just got to run and probably not buy from that buyer ever again. Consistent quality stones in a parcel. So if you're buying a whole heap of rubs or a whole heap of polished stones or a whole heap of rough, you want them all to be kind of consistent. Otherwise, you'll start getting these parcels that are just, the weight is made up by adding just garbage to your potch, and it won't even be good potch. It'll just be sand. So yeah, you just got to watch for that. Another good sign is when there's photos and videos. So it's so important because, like I said earlier, the color play is a huge part of selling a stone, and you just don't get that from photos. You can take 100 photos and maybe put them in a slideshow, but otherwise you're just going to struggle. And some people just put up one photo or two photos, but you want a photo of the front, you want a photo from the side, you want a photo from the back, and then you want a video of the whole stone being rotated. So yeah, it's quite mental when people don't really understand what is needed to make a decision. And then we get into the actual photo and video side of things. So this is by far the hardest part for buyers and sellers. I feel for the sellers, I feel for the buyers. It's just so rough. Literally rough. It's yeah, there's a lot of things when it comes to technology that can be abused quite significantly. So here I've just got a couple examples. The first one is just oversaturation and contrast. So this is where you've got to watch for the fingers, you've got to watch for the background. So here's an opal, small little boulder. I've actually got the piece here. Here he is, I was taking these pictures yesterday. So here, this is literally just using a small filter with my camera. And what you want to look for to see if this is happening is ignore the opal completely, take it out, and then look at the fingers. So if the fingers are starting to get this weird, like, cartoonish effect, you know that the saturation is really high. The other things to look for is the color change. So the fingers, they can come out purple sometimes. If people are trying to bring out purple in the stones, they can come out pink or red to bring out the pinks or reds. Anything that's changing the background colors is changing on the opal. So that mat you see there, just here behind the fingers, that's my cutting mat here. It's grey in color, whereas it's turned this weird greenish blue. So that's showing that the whole thing is bringing out the greenish blue across the entire image. So you just got to watch for that kind of stuff. The other thing is brightness. Some people shoot it in really low light because every now and then that brings out a weird look in the opal. So if you shoot it in really low light, or some people even use like flashlights and stuff, it's really deceptive, and it can make the opal look completely different. You just want natural daylight, kind of what will the stone look like under normal lighting conditions. So as soon as people start selling with low light, ultra high light, you know something sus is going on. And then the last thing is color temperature. So I've got a by temperature kind of light, and this is it in yellow. So that's a piece of white paper behind it. And if you're bringing in a warm light, so anything around the yellowish range, If you bring in a warm light, you get the warm colours coming through the opal. And if you chuck it under a really cool light, like the one I've got on at the moment, if you chuck on a really cool light, you'll bring out the greens and blues really well. So it's a lot of fun in games, but it can be pretty frustrating for everyone, and it can also be really deceptive for some people. So, part 6, sneaky backgrounds. So here I've just used a color body tone scale chart, the one from Black Opal Direct, which is interesting. I should mention that one actually, but I'll get to that. So the sneaky background. Basically, you can take a video or a photo of your opal, especially if it's a crystal opal, on a background, so a darkened background. So here I've used the N1 on the brightness scale, just there. And you can see the difference it makes. It's bringing out a lot of that color and making it a lot more vibrant than what it is on the N9, which is just a pure white kind of square. So if someone's shooting on a background, you've kind of got to take that into account. Wet versus dry. So this one's a bit interesting because it's not a problem to show them wet all the time. So the wet just basically lets you see what a polished stone looks like. Here I've got a dry piece, and you can see that it's all frosted because it's a rub. This is actually just that chip that came off one of the pieces the other day. I've still got it here. And then this is it wet. So you're getting rid of a lot of that frosting. You're kind of getting an idea of what it looks like when it's going to be polished. It's not a bad thing, but it also covers up any kind of cracks, any kind of pitting, any kind of this pitting that causes the frosting. Sometimes it can cover up some inclusions and stuff. It's really good for what it is, but once you're starting to use it to cover things, it's not great. And a lot of people say if you're going to buy in person, just always make sure you see the rough dry, and then you wet it, because that's how you identify whether you've got crazing. All the crazing can be covered up by wet. Online, everything seems to be sold wet, and there's rarely a dry picture alongside them or a dry video. And I can kind of understand why, but at the same time, the ideal selling would have a dry video or a dry picture or two. 8, reputation. So in an online world, we can post reviews wherever we want. I'm doing it on YouTube. People can do it on Facebook. It's just, the thing I would say to people is let people know. So good or bad, let people know is the last point I've got there. And that goes for anyone. We've all got accounts all over the place. And if you don't say anything, whether it's good or bad, if you don't say anything, it doesn't really contribute to other people's decision making. If you get stung really bad by someone, just let people know. I mean, you've seen on this channel that I've got stung, so don't do what I do is one of the points there, because I tried to find a whole heap of different sellers, just buy beginner's parcels from them and see what they give out and just review what comes up. And I didn't really stick to reputable sellers, and we all saw that a couple weeks ago. I got stung on that one. So yeah, there's hundreds of buyers out there. Don't stress. Don't rush into buying from one person or two people. You've got the power. You can take all day. It's really up to you. Ask around. If there's something sus that a lot of people are messaging me at the moment and giving me emails saying, oh, this person seemed a little bit sus, this is what they've said, these are the pictures, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, people are just trying to scam people. It's the internet. It's how it goes. It's how it's always gone and how it will forever go. And then 9, risk tolerance. So this is mainly for rough. It's not a thing for polished stones really. It's less so for rubs. So if your risk tolerance is pretty low, just go for rubs. You're pretty much guaranteed to get what you see, and if you've got an idea for the piece, you can just go ahead and do it. But you've just got to keep in mind all rough has a gamble. You could get a parcel that looks pretty good, and you can get sand, cracks and potch lines just going through it. Just under the surface, you'll just take off the crust and there'll be just rubbish underneath. And you can see here, I've had one that cracked, one that's sandy, one that's potchy, and these aren't the only times that this has happened. It's happened off camera more times. than even this, because I don't know, you can't just have every video just being take off the crust, oh look, sand spots, ruined. Nothing like that. So just keep that in mind when you're just starting out. Don't be too disheartened if you have a great piece of rough that you thought was going to be beautiful and it has a crack right in the middle, or it's just got this huge potch line. It's it's just opal. It's how it goes. If you want to avoid that completely, just buy rubs. Rubs are pretty good. As long as the seller's giving good enough video and pictures, it's great. So that's that. And number 10, which is really the most important thing, is just to have fun. If you're a hobby cutter like I am, you're really just here to have a bit of fun with it. It's a pretty relaxing thing to do. It's good. It's not bad. You can just chill out. So just have fun with it. Don't get too stressed. Yeah, you can sell some stuff on the side or whatever and recoup your money, but really it's a hobby. You've got to have fun. Otherwise, what are you doing? It's just not great. So that is it for this kind of side of things. So I might as well just have a look at some comments and stuff. I don't even know the easiest place to look. I guess here.